Chloe, I am so excited to have you with me tonight.
Ditto.
Actually, we're recording a night session. This is fun.
It's always fun after you've had a long work day.
Yeah, I got to get my fuzzy slippers on here, like get some
Yes, I
popcorn
know.
out. But I'm excited too, Chloe, because you have so much wisdom, I feel like, when it comes to how pain and purpose come together and
Mm,
how our relationships and purpose
mm,
intertwine. And I know for myself, purpose was something that I never really got a good grasp on. I didn't
mm,
feel that I understood my purpose ever really before I got married. And then I didn't certainly know what it was other than my marriage when I was married. I thought my entire purpose was wife and kids.
mm.
I guess I was the wife, but my entire purpose was marriage and kids. And so then when the marriage disappeared, I felt like a lot of purpose disappeared for me. So, as we get rolling here, though, I want to know if you'll talk a little bit about kind of how you journeyed through heartbreak to open up the ministry work that you're doing now, open your life to that, and how that journey began for you.
I honestly, I feel like that's what opened it up, the heartbreak, the pain. That's what started it. When I first felt called into ministry, it was in 2012. And I remember I had gone through just a ton of heartbreak with different guys. And I remember vividly being in a women's meeting, like a women's group or some type of, who was reading some type of book. And the more I read it, I just felt this pull, this emotional pull, this spiritual pull, and it just would not let me go. And I remember asking, I think my dad about it, and he said he felt that too when he was
Mm.
getting called into ministry. But of course, when you hear ministry, you're like, so like I gotta be a pastor over a church? No.
Yeah.
Like it is not like, but I remember just struggling through celibacy and dating the right way, and still struggle, especially after you get married and come out of a marriage, is really even
Hmm.
harder.
Hmm.
And I remember vividly just hearing, I didn't know then that was God. I know now when it's God or the Holy Spirit, the same thing. And so
Hmm.
I just remember vividly like write a book. So my mind was just thinking, how am I going to get this published? I don't really
Hmm.
get it. Like I just didn't get it. And he just was like, you just write. I got the rest. And that's
Mm.
literally what happened. I was actually over the children's ministry. I love kids, like on the other side of me. And the guy, the pastor that was over the children's ministry, I think I just mentioned something about writing. He called me and we were just talking about stuff with church. And he said, oh, send me over what you're writing. I just sent it over. He literally called me one day and was like, I know a lady that does like self-publishing, and she'll do the cover, she'll do all this stuff, she'll put it on Amazon, da da da. He was like, and I'm gonna pay for it. I was
Wow. Oh
like,
my
okay.
gosh. That's so
I think
incredible.
just like I was like, oh, okay, and the way she did it though, and I usually can pick up on things if you show me the way she did it, I ended up figuring out how to do it myself. And
Hmm.
after like her. But the point, like when that happened, the communication side of me was like, well, if I have a book, who exactly am I going to sell it to? Who is this
Mm.
for? That is
Hmm.
where her work as Barbara Rubies came from. Literally. I just
Hmm.
got on Facebook. That was when like it wasn't a million Facebook pages though. Like, but I
Yeah.
started my Facebook page, and as they say, the rest is history, and it
Wow.
started from pain.
Yeah.
I think people have to realize like a lot of what we go through, even though it's painful for us, pain helps us connect with people because we all are going through pain. We
Hmm.
all are going through hurt. We all need some type of comfort and healing. And the only way we can connect with people is that we have to go through pain too.
Mm.
And we have to see what it feels like. I know we want to have this comfortable, amazing life. And Lord wants us to have a loving life too. But how can we connect with people if we don't go through anything?
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
good. Oh my
Does that make
gosh,
any
girl.
sense?
There's
Yeah.
so much wisdom in what you just said. And it's that compassion of being able to connect one to one through
Yes.
the things that we've gone through
Yeah.
that says, I see you. But then I find that those are times where I feel again that God is like, but I see you too.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
reciprocal. Even when I've had women that I'm emailing with and they're telling me like, I'm sorry for what you've gone through. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Like I don't think about myself that often anymore,
Yeah.
but it's just it's that connectivity that really does bring the purpose out of the things that we've gone through.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your upbringing or your younger years. Did you have a sense at all about calling or purpose or any of the reason why you were made to be on this planet?
Growing up, I did always, how can I say this? And that is one thing that I was going to talk about as far as like how to kind of, at least one of the things I would pay attention to in regards to finding out your calling.
Mm.
Pay attention. I paid attention to remember things people would say to me. Not everything, because everybody doesn't have great things to say. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't take critique, but it's certain things that'll kind of stand out to you. So I remember people always saying how distinctive my voice was, or
Mm.
oh, you have like a good radio voice. Or I remember I actually wrote a play one time for our church because we couldn't find a play that they wanted to do, and I was reading the Gospels, and something was like, you should write a play. And I was like, what? And I wrote it and they did it and it was like amazing. And it had comedy in it and I don't even know how I did it. And it was little things like that people, that's why it's so important to have some type of grounded community with your children,
Mm.
and yourself growing up, because you need that. You need those people to speak things in your life who see those gifts in you. It's so important to have that ground for your children.
Mhm.
And I just remember people at my church saying those things to me. I was actually in theater for a while. It's like I knew I was supposed to be on stage in the spotlight, not in like an arrogant way.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
knew that like
To
it was
communicate
something.
on a platform.
Yes, I
Yeah.
knew it was something. If
Mm.
I was in a lot of plays in theater, and I just remember anytime I would do it, it was really impactful. And I used to sing a lot too, but over time I could
Mm.
tell God, I truly believe to this day, God limited my voice just so I would not get distracted by singing. Because I really think he did. Like I feel like I'm gonna put her right there and
Oh,
she will
that is
get
funny.
distracted. you know?
It's
I
like, I want you
think
to know that you
I
have a
feel like
gifting,
he
but I don't
just
want you to go too far off in that direction.
I don't. Oh yeah, he knew. He knew. It's he knew. And the more it happened, though, God was teaching me like, stop. I think I found myself when I would sing in the church. I
Mm.
noticed a lot of times I started speaking and prophesying, not prophesying, but just speaking over people and talking. And God was like, because you are a speaker,
Mm.
because you are meant to prophesy over people, because so he just taught me to like stop trying to hide behind what I hide, stop trying to sing others people's encouragement. You have your own words of encouragement.
Mm.
Stop trying to, use other people's words through theater. No, you have words. And that helped me, but it helped because I was brought up in the church, and and it's not just about church necessarily. I was in Girls Incorporated and just in all these things that pulled out my gifts.
Yeah.
I was brought up, of course, I was brought up in a Christian, what do you call it, like household.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just all of that shaped me into where I am now. But it did take a while. I mean, it takes a while to like really zoom in on your purpose. I will say this though, I do think that we tend to try to find the perfect dot point dart of where our purpose is. And I had to learn that there is no point, there is
Mm.
no end to what God has called you to do. It's a process, it's a
Yeah.
growth, it changes. You just need to focus on what are your gifts and then just be open to where he decides to use it. So don't look for like it's one thing. That's not
Mm.
what it's about. It's about know what you are and who you are. So whether you're an evangelist, a teacher, a speaker, a prayer, a prophesier, is that how you said? That's not a word.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah,
you
yeah,
prophecy, okay.
yeah. You got it.
Be that and let
Mhm.
him just use it in different avenues. But don't think it's just this one thing. I've seen it used in different ways over
Yeah.
time.
I love that you are saying that because I have experienced the same thing where it is this gradual process and it changes. And even something that you may attempt that looks like a failure in one season could actually be preparation for some other work that you
Yes.
would do later down the road. And I
Yes.
think I was always confused about the roles that we have in life and thinking that, like, oh, that's my assignment, and not realizing that
Mhm.
your quote unquote assignment is something that does pull on all those giftings and all those experience, all those roles, all the things that you're doing
Yes.
as you explore who you are and then how that relates to God's work through you in
Others.
your connectivity to other people. But I think what you're saying about gifts is so beautiful, because that was how God helped me out of my breakup, my divorce, was rediscovering who he made me to be first. And it was in
Mm,
realizing that I had never truly accepted my giftings and said, I am good at this, which was the reason why I never really understood my purpose and why I was here. And so once I could grab onto this sense of like, okay, I'm actually good at writing or good at speaking or have an interest in these things, or I like talking about these subjects, I like reading about this stuff, that he showed me how all that was going to pull together to become
yes,
ministry. And
yes,
that's for this season. I don't know what it's going to change and look like in the future, but I know for right now, this is where he's
what
planted
it
me.
is.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
yes.
it does really take, I think we feel like, oh my gosh, how am I going to ever figure out like what, God's purpose is for
Is
me.
exactly
And
what
it's,
yes. What am I
yeah,
exactly supposed to be doing? We freak
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, it's so beautiful when it's this actual, like, gradual organic process that comes out of just us
Yes.
getting deep down into exploring those giftings, the
And
things that come easy to us. I feel like we feel like we're supposed to do the things that we don't want to do. Like if you don't want to do kids ministry,
yes,
or
that's
whatever.
what your calling is. No,
But it's like, no, he's going to call you to do things that
you
come
enjoy.
somewhat, yeah, that are
Yes,
somewhat more natural for you. So
yes.
talk about relationships though, and how in your experience and in just the women that you've worked with, how it relationships can take us towards our purpose or can distract us from our purpose, what that's looked like for you.
I was actually thinking about that when I was going over that in my mind, and I really think it's even a third part or middle part to that. I think that it can distract you from your purpose, lead you towards your purpose, is part of your purpose. The
Mm,
breakups, the good times, the bad times, everything, because in the midst of everything we go through, God also is pruning us. I remember after with my third divorce, I don't even know. Sometimes
mm,
like I'm just like, where am I in
mm,
life right now? I remember being downstairs talking to my parents, and my mom made this comment. I was mad at the time, but then I was like, wait a minute, it kind of makes sense. She was like, I think relationships are just like, just like, are just your like, she was saying it more of like a bad way, like that's just like your thing. But the more I thought about it, I was like, I want her to re-speak that, like take that out the atmosphere. But then I thought about it and I was like, no, that does make sense. Relationships are my thing. That is my
mm,
thing. That's part of my gift, whether helping people who've gone through a bad part of it or they're struggling their marriage communication wise. Or so sometimes what I've learned, usually the thing that you are struggling with the most, the thing that I forgot what they call it on like superhero movies, like your kryptonite.
oh
What,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Whatever your kryptonite is, it probably is part of your calling. I'm like
um,
probably 95% sure it's probably part of your calling.
mm,
I think because God only also uses it for your good, but it's doing something, whether it's navigating you to your purpose, whether it's a part of pruning you to be prepared for your purpose, it's part of it. And so all of the relationship that I've gone through, even who I was as a person, I feel like I did all of the things that all women do or
mm,
doing or have done. And I also have noticed throughout my relationship experiences, God never allowed me to go through it too long. My situations were always extremely intense. I would go through things that people went through in like 5 years in 1 year.
mm,
I mean, and it can really break somebody almost. But I think God knows, but He really does know what you can handle with Him. With Him.
mhm,
But I think that a lot of what I went through, some of the stuff we go through, though, we have to realize it's because of us. It has nothing to do with that God had in his mind, like, I'm going to allow this to happen. So no, he gave us free will. So some situations we're in is because of us.
mm.
However, because God is so loving and amazing and such a second time chance person, all of that, he'll use it though. He'll use
Yeah,
it. He'll,
right.
even when I went into like honestly, like my second marriage, I had a really deep feeling that about to go through a lot of suffering. And I called off the wedding. I will never forget that.
Mm,
And, but I then, we end up basically still get married. And I know that God was trying to like, hey, turn around,
mm,
but I was focused on, I left my job and moved back home. I had, I was ready to move in a place with my husband. I was ready to have children. I was super focused on my desires. And that's usually where we mess up at. We let our desires trump God's will for our lives and our calling of our lives.
Mm,
Because we think that's what I want. That's what I want to do, even though we hearing something.
yeah.
And I think God already knew I was going to do this. I think he just more so used it for my good.
Yeah.
And as much as it hurt so much, what I went through and still healing from it, I learned so much about myself and I changed tremendously. And he needs those situations sometimes to change us. I mean, Joseph went through a lot. He saw in a dream exactly what he was called to do. It took him like, I want to say it was 13 years. It may have been more than 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
He probably never would have thought he was going to be a slave and then in jail. Then he tried to get
Yeah.
out of jail early. Then he got back again. So, I mean, I think that it's all a part of it, everything that I went through. That doesn't mean, though, that I need to go back to a situation like that again, like learn
Yeah.
it. All right, time to move on. Joseph doesn't need to go back to slavery. Like, why
Yeah.
does he
Yeah.
need that?
Yeah.
So I think it's just all of it. I think it was a part of it. It distract. Now, when I say distract, it was moments within even my marriage and relationships where they helped me in my calling. But what you have to watch is that you may be in your giftings, but not your calling. It's a
Mm.
difference. Everything that you're good at doesn't mean you're necessarily called to do it. It's some things that I'm great. I noticed I was using my gifts, but it just wasn't in the correct area. And then two, when you're going through a lot and you're suffering, it's really hard to be in your calling.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't have the energy for it. I mean,
Yeah.
you just tired. You're trying to figure out what's going on with your own life. And don't always though assume either that the things that you're going through in a relationship is a distraction. It may be a part of the journey to get you where you're called to be too. So it just takes a lot of prayer, I
Yeah.
think, to know like where you are.
That was great what you just said, that it may not necessarily be a distraction. It may be getting you to where you're supposed to go. And I recognize
Mhm.
sometimes it kind of feels like a little bit of both, because I know that my marriage caused me to shrink to the
Mhm.
point where I did not feel that I was extremely gifted in anything. I didn't feel that I was very valuable as in terms of contribution, to very many people, or that I had much to even say. And all of the setbacks, all the things that I went through just made me feel disqualified. And so there were a lot of things that in that period of time where it felt like I just kind of went into this like cocoon.
Mhm.
But all that being said, just like you said, busting out of that cocoon was, I mean, it was an explosion that completely changed my life. I was
Yeah.
transformed personally
Yeah.
in just so many different ways, where I was able to finally embrace all these things that I felt were not even there. And so then in recognizing that they were there, it was like, oh my goodness, like new life birthed out of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
God, let's do something with this. What do you want to do? And then being able to take, as I healed, those bold steps into saying, all right, well, let's go. I feel like, God showed me his faithfulness here and here and here and here. And so if this is what he's calling me to, then let's go, but so it was that period of time where I had to go through that suffering in order to find the transformation that made
Yes.
the purpose really just way more clear.
Oh
but
yeah. And
but I
perfect.
will say too, like as I've gotten out of an unhealthy relationship and now discovered this, sense of my purpose and my giftings and things like that, as I
Yeah.
step into new relationships, I can see which ones would be distracting, which ones would
Yeah.
take the focus off of my calling
Yeah.
instead of, amplifying it. And so I want to know if you'll share a little bit of your perspective on that, as far as how our relationships can amplify our calling, or that they can be something that divides our attention.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that that's why it's so important to know it first. I do feel like I knew my calling before the marriages and relationships. And as time went on, like I was saying, some of the relationships were a part of me being able to connect with people on these
Mhm.
situations. And if I didn't go through it, I would have been able to connect to it. Even going into the after miscarriage ministry, I had to go through that to get it.
Mhm.
And so I think that you have to know it first, because if you don't know it, for instance, if God has called you to be an evangelist and travel the world the rest of your life in all these different countries, and maybe, or he's called you to adopt children, and then you meet a man and he's like, I don't like kids,
Mhm.
your mind automatically like, you're not the one.
Yeah.
You're not, there's no way you're the one. You don't even like children. That makes no
Yeah.
sense, you know,
Yeah.
or, you know, just whatever it is, it will disconnect.
Mhm.
That's why too, it goes back to having good people around you. It's things that have been prophesied over me. Now, I'm not saying listen to everybody, your spirit to know. And
Mhm.
God knows who to speak through, that he knows that you respect and trust. And I remember vividly being told, and unless I'm wrong, that it's not a spouse, and maybe it could just be a friend that he's talking about. I have no idea. But I remember vividly things about children and me and, you know, somebody glorifying God together.
Mhm.
And now, true, don't be so closed minded, though, that if they don't have a certain vocation or act a certain way, there's no way you're the one. Well, no, still be
Mhm.
prayerful, because you don't know what role they may have. For instance, you
Mhm.
know, we podcast and we write and we love all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I may say, like, oh, well, he's not into ministry, though, but he's a video editor,
Mhm.
maybe, you know what I mean, or
Mhm.
he, so like, don't be closed off if they have to be exactly like you, that then what's
Yeah.
the point, you know?
Yeah.
It's really just more so, do you see you all's calling working together? Because if God has called you to be with somebody, if it is a mate for you, you all coming together should be more powerful than you were when you were apart.
Oof.
That really is what you should be seeing, you know?
That's good.
You know, I mean, it's true though, you know, like,
Yeah.
I should be like, we should be like amping up. I mean, that's the point
Mhm.
of connections and partnerships. I mean, when you put a plug in a wall, it's more powerful. It
Yeah.
illuminates the light more. So if you're with somebody and it's dimming, your light is dimming,
Yeah.
and to a point where it's probably off, or you so distracted it's always flickering, you can't
Mm.
even keep the light on because of what's going on. You may want to like question some things about that. So I do think like you have to be open to God's way of that connection and it
Mhm.
helping you. And then, yeah, if you feel like you're being pulled more away from God, your relationship isn't deepening, something's going on there. But I will say too, keep in mind your personality too. You know, I know who I am as a person. I know I have a strong personality. I know how I roll.
Mhm.
And what prime example, like you say, when you're meeting somebody, so like I've always, like we gonna talk about roles. I love my ministry. I love children. I love having people over and family. And I've always wanted to be able to work or work from home. And God laid a job like that on my lap, basically. And so if that time comes, whether children first, you know, or a spouse, I can be at home and do that. However, I know that I can't be with somebody who wants somebody to be very focused on wife, mom. Your
Mhm.
whole life should be about cooking and make like just this total domestic
Yeah.
old school mentality of a housewife or
Mhm.
home mom, I guess you could say. I would need somebody who understands a mix of that. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I would need them to do. I would need them to understand, like, I'm cool with some of that, but I need somebody who can understand that I may be on a podcast at 7 o'clock at night. You can pick up
Yes.
dinner. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
deal, you know, and I've been in relationships where it wasn't like that.
Mhm.
It was very focused on me handling all of that. I can't walk in my gift like that. There's just no way. So it's little things like that, considering your personality, what you feel like you want to do, family wise, calling. It should be an understanding there. The person that is perfect for you could be somebody who just allows you to be free and to be all do all that you need to be. It could even be that you all are necessarily like in it together. He
Yeah.
just may be a supportive role that, babe, it's good. I got the dinner. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it. And just
That's
keeps
good.
you calm and allow, you know, so just be open to his way of fulfilling that role through a spouse. And just don't be so quick to mark people off. All that matters is your light getting bigger. That's all that matters. If your light gets bigger by somebody making sure that the power is on, so when you plug it up, it actually turns
Mm.
on,
Yeah.
it's okay. Or if
That's
y'all
a good
both in there, you
analogy.
know, working on the light bulb, that's cool too. But
Yeah.
just be open, you know, just it should be
Yeah.
flowing though. That's the main thing. It should be growing and not diminishing. Is the main.
That's so good. That's so good. And I feel like there's a little balance there, because if we know who we are first and we know the like unique calling of our life, the special creation that we are, to be made, to be alive at this time in history with these people, and we just realize how hand selected that is by God, that there's kind of a deal breaker nature in that, where it's like, uh, okay, the A number one in my life says that this is what I'm here for. So if our lives don't fit together in that, then it's okay. Like, go and do your purpose. This is mine. So
Yes.
that there is that sense of like, you're somewhat individual, but that there's an expectation from the beginning that you're a God seeker first, and that you want that for your partner as well. You want him to be a God seeker first,
Yes.
and that
Main
he
thing. Yeah.
has the same thing, and that you're giving him the same space. And like you said, it may not look that your ministries at the outset, it may not be like, oh, we both are podcasters, that's great,
Right. It's like,
right? But if it's a person that, if you're a really communicative, outspoken type of person, but this person is the one who you turn and cry to and go, oh my gosh, I got this mean tweet, or whatever, and that they're an encourager, or that they're giving you
yeah.
different things to think about in your own personal walk, that there's a beauty that grows out of things that are not exactly the same. And so we do have to be, while we do have the deal breaker side on
Yeah.
this one side, we do have to have this openness to the way that God would show us
Oh yeah.
how our mission fits in with someone else's. And I think when you're looking
That's a good
at,
one.
middle age, and you're looking at, people who also have had pain and stuff like that, that it can be a little bit of a process to find somebody who has a
Yeah.
mission that corresponds to yours, or that has the same level of passion that you have. But it's like, don't give up. Don't
Yeah,
settle.
I think you had a good point about the. At the end of the day, it really boils down to the whole. Are they on the same wavelength in regards to why you feel you're on Earth? Period.
Mm-hmm.
So if I feel like, well, our whole purpose on Earth is to, show the love of God through people and be able to heal and help and encourage people. We're here for other people. In the midst of that, God naturally takes care of us. And it's all about reconciling those relationships back to God, because He wants as many children back with Him, in
Mm-hmm.
heaven. So if
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's my calling, everything I do is going to match that. But if I'm with somebody else and their whole purpose is to become a millionaire, okay,
Yeah.
but now you may say like, oh, that's not, no, I mean, ask him why he wants to be a millionaire. Oh,
Mm.
I want to be a millionaire because I want to be able to help as many people as I can, support churches, or put schools in. Okay, well, he sounds like he's still on the same purpose. He just wants to take care of people versus
Yeah.
I want to make all this money just to pass it down to my children. Or if they feel
Mm-hmm.
like their whole purpose in life is to pass everything to their kids. So what that means, if they don't have children, or if there's a problem, that messes things, like it's just
Yeah.
really all about figure out what do they feel like they're on earth for? Why do they
Mm-hmm.
go to work? Why do they do the things that they do? Figure out the why behind what they're doing. It's not about what they're doing. Why are they doing it? If you
Oof.
ask them why they're doing it, that
Yeah.
will really show you like, I think that we have different visions. Our directions, it kind of goes back to the unequally yoked thing. It's
Yes.
not just about, is he a Christian and are you a Christian? That is not what that is about. Because there's a lot of Christians that they are unequally yoked. It
Mm-hmm.
is about, are we going the same direction? They says that because they put a yoke on two animals, hoping that they were going the same direction to plow and they had the same purpose. If y'all have two different purposes, you're stressed and stressed out. Your neck is breaking. They're
Yeah.
trying to go this way. You're trying to go, it just doesn't work. So
Yeah.
just figure out the why to make sure that you all are pulling and plowing this land for the same reasons. You all are planting seeds for the same reason. Because at the end of the day, then a flower is going to come up. It may look a little different how you get there
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, or they may be a little bit tougher than you are, or put in more seeds at one point than you are, but it's all the same purpose. We want a flower to come up. So
Yeah.
I think just asking that why when guys bring up things they want to do, and that's going to help a lot. That helps a
That's
whole lot.
so good. And I feel like that's such a great,
Like, where's this
a
coming from?
great, like,
I myself.
you're like, I'm going to write that down.
Chloe, as we're dating. God.
I feel like that's a great like first date, second date type of question too, because it's like you get so stuck into this like, so what do you do? And like tell me about your family, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, I want to go straight to the like, but what
Why?
are you about?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I really like that.
It's not weird. I talk on the phone for a little bit before I even go on a date. I'm just like, I don't like wasting my time. We see we get along first over the phone before I even.
Well, and I guess there's different styles in that because like I will chat with somebody, especially because I've met a few people online. Like I'll chat a little bit,
Mhm.
but I don't need like long conversations on chatting. So it's like if I get the sense that you're kind of a safe person, that we're
Right.
at least on the same wavelength, then we can meet for coffee like
Really?
early. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just get a better sense of people, I feel like, when I meet them
In person, yeah.
face to face to get that passion. Like what really does passion look like in you? How does that come out in the way that you talk about it? When you
Yeah.
talk about this, you can type a lot of things, and I suppose it's the same as a phone call, but you can message a lot of things without really getting a
Yeah.
sense for like where that person's heart is. They might say all the perfect words,
Yeah.
but I want to see your facial expression. I want to,
Mhm.
I mean, even to the point where you can tell, like, I talk faster when I'm really passionate about something. And I
Yeah.
always have to tell people, like, sorry, I'm getting off my soapbox now. But I think that when you really deeply are passionate about something, then you can identify in another person if they have that similar level of
Oh,
passion.
yeah. Yeah.
And I
And it
think,
doesn't have to be expressed the way you express it. I had to learn that, especially because usually opposites attract. Now, they don't mean opposites in beliefs and faith and things like
right.
that, but opposites as far as like personality dynamics. I'm
Hmm.
expressive and but I may not need to be with somebody like that. Then you have like two
Right.
bombs in the house, like you
Right.
don't need that. So,
Right.
you definitely have to figure out how to really kind of view and see that passion out of them and their different ways of expressing it and showing it.
Gosh, I love that you just said that too, because I feel like when you're a really expressive, like extroverted, demonstrative person, like I think you and I both are, it's really obvious to tell when somebody is super passionate about something. Although
Yeah.
at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that because somebody can show that to you that they have follow through. And that's why I think it's
Motivation.
important to kind of walk with people for a little while and let it be a slow process, because they can be really excited about something but really not that engaged in it. And
Yes.
then on the flip side,
Oh,
you can meet someone who's not that overly
yeah.
expressive, yeah, or chatty about it, but man,
Mhm.
their heart is in it and they're committed to it and they're day in, day out consistent. And so
Mhm.
I think we have to ask God though for guidance too as we're meeting people, to say, show me. Because I know where I got stuck before in a relationship was hearing the words that somebody was saying to me, but not watching the behaviors. And
Mhm.
so now I'm all about, okay, you can tell me
Your
whatever it
action.
is you think I want to hear.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
have to learn to slow it down over time and watch what your
Each
actions really
time,
say.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Because I feel, and a lot of times you can just see that by those daily, regular conversations, like when you just asking, like, "Oh, hey, what you did today?" Just you can just see where people spend their time. That's where their heart is. Where people
Mhm.
spend, what they're doing much of the day. Like if I talk to people, they're like, "Oh, no." A lot of times they'll say, "I know you say ministry a lot. Like, what are you talking about?" Because I say it a lot. I'm like, "Oh, I'm working and I'm doing this," and because I usually say what I'm doing throughout the day, or I
Mhm.
express like, oh, what's going on, I enjoy. So a lot of times, even just asking them what they're doing throughout the day, what are they doing those 7 days in a row that did they say
Yeah.
the exact same thing every single day? Like, did it come off like they were doing anything for other people? Are they very self-absorbed? You
Mhm.
can pick up on it. The problem is that we tend to ignore it because we're so concerned with meeting our desires of just having some form of companionship, some
Mhm.
form of somebody that likes us, that we don't even pay attention to other stuff. And the reason why we do that is because we miss, like, yes, it feels good to have somebody. Yes, it feels good to have somebody who cares about you and all that stuff. That's awesome. The Lord knows that we desire. There's nothing wrong with that. It's physical things that happen to us in our minds that we need it and we desire it. The
Mhm.
problem, though, is that we forget though the purpose of why God wanted companionship though. And then we
Mm,
forget the fact that we're supposed to be iron sharpens iron, and we're supposed to be coming together. So when you get distracted by like, oh, he always calls me beautiful and he's
yeah.
always there and he texts me every day and yada 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 yada, and it feels good, but what is he truly doing for you in your life?
Hmm.
It's like, I could bring you 10 people right now that tell you look good. That don't
Yeah.
mean much. So I think
Yeah.
that we see that stuff. We just ignore it because we just want to feel good, and
Yeah.
it feels good. And that's why honestly, I feel like it's so important to find your calling, because people don't realize a lot of the fulfillment that you're looking for in dating and relationships is like 10 times better when you're walking in your calling. I mean,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
feeling is amazing. I mean, it is
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, it's just like that's what you were made for, and
Yeah.
it shows you that you are more than just a possibility of a wife and a mom and a friend. I called you to be this. If you were a toaster and like somebody finally put some bread in you, like what? And they put toaster on. The toaster is like, man, I can make some good toast. Like
And
if
it's like the thick bread. It's not just like the wimpy little
like
white bread slices. It's like
that's sourdough. It's
this
deep.
is this is the stuff with like the nuts and the seeds on the outside.
Yes. Oh my God, it's funny. Yes, it makes a big difference. And I think when I first like had a moment of walking in my calling, the high that I was on, I was like,
Mm,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I still desire relationships. But it
mhm.
goes back to like they supplement you who you are. It's a supplement. It's not
Yeah.
everything. It's not
Yeah.
your completion. It's not your fulfillment. It is a supplement to your life. So I think that when you find that fulfillment and you find peace and joy, you pick partners better. You pick
Yeah.
partners way better.
That's
You know what you're calling.
100%
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Yeah. Because the thing that I found very, very deeply was that purpose was such an antidote to loneliness, and
Mm,
that
yes.
loneliness can make us so just long for connection that we'll take it at any cost or we'll settle. And so, I even think about like, okay, you could see a guy's dating profile, for example, and maybe he's got a picture that he went on a mission trip. And so all of a sudden now you're thinking like, oh, he's super committed to his calling because this one picture is on there. But just
Yeah.
like you were saying, with like watching somebody over time and what do they talk about? What kind of things are they engaged in? When you are doing that, and that's literally like the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning, you notice so much more readily whether or not somebody else is fueled the same way. And
Mm-hmm.
I've had conversations where I'm looking across a person, across a table at coffee with a person and going, wow, I really respect you,
Mm-hmm.
because you can tell that their calling is so important to them. And it's like, I'm like, wow, I don't even, if even we don't go out anymore or we're not lined up, we're not supposed to be together. Like, I respect what you're doing with your life. And I'm just honored to have this interaction with you because it fuels me to do my connection or to do my
Yeah.
calling more and better.
Yeah.
And so then I'm connecting on a level of mutual admiration and respect and
Mhm.
the depth of faith and character and all those things that really are long term and what God really desires for us in super fulfilling relationships. And then not just settling for the like, as you said, like, oh, you're beautiful, or, these little gifts, or, going
Right.
out to meals, or, this kind of stuff. Like, those are so easy. But I think when you think about the long term of life and the fact that you will have ups and downs and things like that, like, what kind of person do you want going through that part with you? I think we often
Yeah.
think too much about the like, oh, this feels really good right now, but we don't think about like, does this
Oh,
person have the ability, because they know God has called them and put a purpose on their life, do they have the ability to weather the storms of life, knowing fully that all the storms they go through, that God is using it for their purpose as well?
yeah, their outlook. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Their total paradigm on life makes a huge difference when it comes to like that potential partner, that companionship, that compatibility. Because I mean, the way they look at things is gonna really affect how they adjust to those storms, to that suffering that happens if they can keep going. And I think a key to it too is that when it comes to your calling and purpose, is that God knows what you need before you even ask for it, and He knows you. So, like, I know that I'm like a wake up in the morning, let's go, Chloe. Like I got my list. I mean, I am just zoned in with the things that I have to do. And for me, I would think, oh, I should be with somebody who wants to be this way as well, and we just, whatever. But I've actually dated people who I didn't realize, like, I don't need somebody amping me up. I'm pretty doggone amped up myself. I
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
somebody just, Chloe, you don't have to do anything for me. Just
Mm,
just
yeah.
and it took me being to myself, and actually honestly after the divorce and being to myself, I've been working on a lot of self-care. So I get a massage once a month now, y'all. I'm not rich. I save up for this. I
Mm-hmm.
budget for it.
Mm-hmm.
I get my nails done every 3 weeks. I get a massage once a month. I give my dog to somebody for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that because it really taught me, like, Chloe, like, you give and you give and you give and you moving, you moving, you moving. And it's so true. You gotta let yourself rest. You gotta let yourself be filled up too. And you may need a partner who allows you to just be filled and taken care of. And he lets you run around and do your thing. And that's what you need. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you may be just sufficient in your calling enough to God, like, I just need somebody to come into her life to, like, relax her sometimes. I
Yeah.
was actually watching this video. It was like some video on Facebook that was going around, and they had like Michelle Obama and all these different really renowned black women. And one
Mm-hmm.
said, "Don't let your hustle get in the way of your health." I'll never forget that.
Ooh, that's good.
Yes, and I was like, that's why I never judge or what's the word I'm looking for? Totally write off people. I just don't. You can learn
Mm-hmm.
from anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody. Everybody has some wisdom with faith. That everybody has something. And when she said that, I do what I need to do for myself, and I take a week off each month. That's just what I do. And God has shown me, even when you're resting, I can still be working. You know what I mean? Like, in the
Mm-hmm.
midst of what you already done. It's been times that I've taken breaks, Michelle,
Mm-hmm.
and it seemed like my stuff was gearing up on its own when I was away. I have
Mm-hmm.
to be filled. I mean, Jesus went away for days and he filled
Mm-hmm.
himself. So, just it goes back to that open thing. You may just need somebody to help you rest and just
Yeah.
take care of you.
Yeah, that's really good. I think too, because we so often will think about like, oh, this is what I need. Like, this is what this person should look like, or this is what
Yeah.
they should be
Like, you
engaged
don't
in.
know. Sit down.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I think there are some of those basics that we've talked about, for example, like how their character comes out in the way that they live their life, but we don't have to have all the details like wrapped up in a tidy little package to be like, oh, he's going to look like this, he's going to talk like this, and he's going to care about this, and
well,
we
I think too, people have that paradigm worldview that is this one person out there for them.
mm,
I don't believe that. That
mhm,
I don't see that anywhere in the Bible. I'm trying to
mhm,
still figure out what that is in the Bible.
mhm,
I think all you have to do is just realize, like, God knows what you need, and on top of that, He's aware that you need companionship. He saw that in Adam, and He provided that. Now we are in a different generation, a lot of stuff going on. Men are different in a lot of ways,
mhm.
but the point is that be open to the fact that there isn't just this one person. I think because people are looking for that, they get
Yeah.
real, is he the one? No, there is no
Yeah.
one. It's
Yeah.
really just more so of, like, is he a good candidate? That's really how you should look at
Mm,
it. I
yeah.
mean, it goes back to, like, when we're voting for presidents, it's a couple of candidates. Like,
Yeah.
have candidates that fit what your vision is and what you're looking for. Like, I'm gonna vote for that guy. So
Yeah.
don't think it's just one person, or if you didn't work out with this one person, that, oh, I will never get married, or that's not true. The main thing God cares about is being equally yoked. The main thing you would see him say things about in partners in the Bible is he didn't like it when they would get with people that would deter him from God. That was his
Mhm.
main thing, whether that was a different faith or just because of how they acted. All he cares about, are they deterring you from me? I don't want you to be.
Mm,
Just look for that. That's all you. If that core thing is there, that's
yeah.
all he really cares about. And that goes back to the calling thing. If they're dimming your light, they're pulling you from God. If they're
Mhm.
not helping you in your callings, they're pulling you from God. All through the Bible, that's all you see. He just didn't
Mhm.
like that. So I think if we let go of that one thing, it'll really help us to, like, relax. It's
Yeah.
okay to work out with him.
Yeah.
It's But it's a couple of men out there. It's all right.
I like that. Well, and I think too, we a lot of times will get caught up in this feeling like, am I wasting my time? And certainly, yes, there are places where it's like, that's not that's not a fertile planting ground. That's not a place where you're going to have harvest,
Yes.
but that sometimes we do have to take some steps to get to know somebody slowly over time. And but if this is a person who's trustworthy, this is a person of good character, that we're going to grow spiritually in the process too. And that God's going to develop things in us, develop things in our ability to relate to people or to hear and see and have discernment. And so we don't have to worry so much about wasting time if we know that we're seeking spiritual growth in a relationship, because regardless, then we'll experience spiritual growth in the dating process as well. So we can just kind of slow it down.
And you have to ask yourself, if you feel like you're wasting time, it must be something that was in your mind that you wanted. What was wasting time? Because you didn't get a ring out of it? Well, it was wasting time because you didn't get married. It's like you said, if you're looking at it as more of a spiritual growth process, you really can't learn from every person that you meet.
Yeah.
It's guys that I've dated that it was like little nuggets of wisdom they would say while we were talking, whether because they noticed something about me. It was one guy I dated. He had said a couple of things I noticed. I was like saying, like, yeah, remember this? My friend of mine said this, or you know, maybe he my husband. It just means, maybe I'm supposed to learn that,
Yes.
And many times, like, don't assume that every nice guy that you connect with is your husband. That's like not the case. Sometimes it's a seasonal friend. Sometimes it's just God trying to show you something about your life. And I think it goes back to what you said. If you think you're wasting your time, that means you have a goal in your mind for every man that you come across. I want to get married and have children one day. So unless you get that from him, wasting your time, like that's just not how you should look at it. Always be open to God's will about that relationship and plan. But I do agree with you. If you see that land is dry and has rocks, and the sun never comes out on top of it, and never, why are you over there?
Yeah.
Like, don't waste too much time. Like, don't struggle. Don't do
yes. Oh, Chloe, this is so good. I want to know, you touched a little bit on finding your purpose, and we talked a little bit about exploring those giftings. And, so if there's someone who's listening who is like, I barely have time with my kids and my work and all this stuff to really like explore my giftings or, those kind of things. Like, what would you say to a woman who is starting at the bare bones and like wants to figure this out, wants to do this well, but doesn't
not sure
exactly
like
know where
how
to start?
to find it. And I mean, I'm always say prayer. Like, it's number one. You have the Holy Spirit residing within you. He does speak to you, but you need to give yourself quiet time. But I know people have lives and children. When it's quiet in your house, though. If it's important enough for you to know your calling, realizing that if you, first of all, put in your mind that following your calling is going to be the most fulfillment you have in your life, because it has to be important to you for you to take time out for it. If you know that 4:30 in the morning is when it's the quietest in your house, even if you can't do it every day, maybe if it's just once a week that I'm gonna wake up at 4:15 and pray, like, and write. It's just one. Lord says, if you seek him, if you knock, he will answer. If you seek him, you will find him. If you take that time out to do it, he will do it. So first, you got to make finding your calling a priority. It has to be important to you, because if it's not, you're not gonna do any of this other stuff I'm saying. That's just it. Number two, prayer. Like, you need to, really seek God about it. Number three, get basic. Take a gifts assessment test. Like, it really does help. Like, my church does one as you like becoming a member. But literally, you can Google free gifts assessment tests.
Yeah.
And you really can. And like, I wish I could remember the one I would suggest. I mean, if they want to, they can go to my site at chloemcgooden.com. And I'm a big resource person, so I will send you the one to take, because I love like giving out resources. But just take one. It's really good. I mean, that was the first time that I think when I took one, I saw that was my gift to like teach and shepherd. And, it didn't even say preacher. And I was glad it didn't say preacher, but it was like, it even said legitimately like, I'm not necessarily supposed to be over a church. It explained it better
Mhm.
in like more of a shepherd teacher way. So
Mhm.
yeah, Google's gift assessment test. So they can, go on my site at chloegooden.com. I will email you one that you can take.
Yeah.
After you do that, I would write down things that you have heard over your life, spoken over you, that people say you're good at. Write that
Mhm.
down. Oh my God, like your voice is so distinctive. Oh my God, like every time you're around me, I just feel so at peace. Oh, I just love when you pray for me. It's just
Mhm.
nothing like it. Oh, I mean, you had all those people come to Christ just because you told your story, that type of stuff. Those things where people just are reminding you you're impactful. Oh
Yeah.
my God, my children just love when you are around. Like, just figure, like, write that stuff down. It's something that has been said and repeated to you a lot.
Mhm.
You need to go over that too.
Mhm.
Also, it talks about the different gifts. Isn't it Corinthians?
Yes.
Okay. I know we talked about that.
You're like, wait, but there's two of them, so
But if you Google like Bible
yeah.
gifts, oh my God. But talk about the teacher, the evangelist, the prophet, the person that's a prophet, the prayer, all of that stuff. It talks about the different gifts and how it can work and force the kingdom.
Yeah.
So I would go there as well. I would probably say those are the four things I would do. But lastly, like we talked about, please remember that it's a process. Start where you are. Where you are right now is a part of your calling and a part of your gifting. You just need to figure out which one is your gift and not necessarily just a talent, because it's different. I have a lot of talents. I can act, I can sing, I do a lot of stuff. That
Yeah.
don't necessarily mean it's my gift though. For
Mhm.
instance, and then also even in the midst of that, look at your typical daily vocation. So, my job, I was a professor for years. Well, that makes sense. I like teaching. Or for instance, right now I'm a full-time student advisor. I love advising people and helping them and encouraging them, and I love sending out resources. I still like teaching a little bit, but I like teaching more so in ministry out of everything
Mhm.
versus that. I still believe in it. And then I taught public speaking or communications. That makes sense. Like, so
Yeah.
look at what you are doing already vocationally too. It's in line with that. God is just like kind of already probably has you around your calling and gift. It's
Mhm.
probably just you not noticing it and not
Mm.
paying attention to it. And you probably aren't, because you're really focused on this role that you asked for years. And you think that's all you are. You're
Mm.
more than just a mom. You're more than just a wife. You're more than just I don't know, a banker or whatever it may be. It's a gifting in that. And don't assume that you can't walk in your gifting in your current position. Even as a banker, I
Mm.
remember off and on, I would meet people and would end up like encouraging them in the line, or
Yeah.
people that I would just impact and they would bring me flowers out of nowhere. So don't assume that you can't walk in your gift where you are. Like
Yeah.
you can do it wherever you are. That's what he has you there for a reason. So don't assume like you got to go like quit your job.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I think sometimes too we think like calling has to be that like I start a Bible study in, like
We put it in a box for
yeah,
sure.
like it has to look a certain way or and it may be that, it may be if you feel as you grow and those kind of things that there's a need for that in wherever you're planted, then yeah,
Yeah.
go after that. But we limit, I think, sometimes our understanding because we think it has to look a certain way. And it's so even to start, so wonderful to just be an encourager in a place, like you said, like a bank, where it's just people are
Yeah.
coming in there to do transactional things. They're not expecting to be shown the light of Christ.
Yeah.
Like, as
But it's
they
the
like,
perfect place, right? Because you see so many
absolutely.
people. Like that's what people
Yeah.
don't, you know what I mean? Like you gotta
Yeah.
look at it that way, like where you can be
Yeah.
the most impactful.
Yeah, yeah. And as well, like the things that we're doing in our kids' lives, that's a huge ministry in and of
Oh my
itself.
God.
But I
Yeah.
think again, that's another place where sometimes we can feel like our hands are tied when it's like, but I'm doing this by myself, but I'm not doing it perfectly, and that kind of thing. And it's like there's in these imperfect spaces, the whole point of our purpose and our calling is that God would be magnified, that God's grace and his glory would be shown. And actually, the less qualified that we might feel or the weaker that we show up,
Once again,
that
you may feel like it's not like that at all. I mean,
it's,
we never heard a lot about Mary. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
all we heard about Mary really was that she was a virgin and she met Joseph,
Mhm.
and she had Jesus, and she took care of him and developed him. So like being, oh my God, like think about just that example.
Yeah.
You could be feeding the next like
Like it could be
thing, or and I'm not the type to have all these critiques about pastors. That's my problem. It's not like I feel like there is a flock for every shepherd. Every
Mhm.
shepherd.
Mhm.
That's just not your shepherd, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you could be. How you could be holding,
Yeah.
like feeding a TD Jakes.
Yeah.
It don't even have to be big people like that. The next
Yeah.
person that's gonna start a school in a country that doesn't have Bibles, like
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
that in itself is so significant.
Yeah.
So that could be your purpose. Your whole purpose and calling in life was to birth Jesus.
Mm.
I just want you to birth Jesus. That is,
Mm.
and in your mind it's so small, but oh my
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
that was not small. I feel like parenting children that is a major calling. That is
Yeah.
a major role. Prime example, you and our parents birthed us. And
Mhm.
who would have ever thought in this generation and time how important a podcast and videos and internet? Oh my God, even the person that invented internet.
Yeah.
Like, if we didn't invent internet, like the
Yeah.
ministry would not be able to get across. We wouldn't be able to impact people in Sweden. Like that is
Yeah.
insane. So it's just like, don't
Yes.
think you're insignificant role. This is not an insignificant role. A
Yeah.
parent, that is a big deal. You don't know who God is training through you. You don't
You
know
know
who.
what? I love that you said that because actually I got a text from my dad today. So cute. It was just like, I
Oh,
am so proud of what you're doing. And I was just like,
I
thanks,
would have broke down right
Dad.
now, Lord.
Like, I'm 38 and I still want to hear, I'm proud of you, and it's just like those little things. And we can do that in our kids' lives every single day. And
Mhm.
that no matter what they grow up to do, that they would know God's love through even just those little bits of encouragement that we can give, no matter how much we feel our hands are tied, it still is impactful in
Oh yeah.
our kiddos coming to understand the love of God.
Mhm.
So, wrapping up, this has been so much fun.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, as we're, kind of parting here, I ask every guest at the end of the show the same question. And that is, if there's just one last thing that you would want a single mom to know, what would it be?
Realize how special you are to God. I think women sometimes we do not realize like we are like God's gems. I'm telling you, like we really are. And it's not saying that man is insignificant. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that women hold a really special place in God's heart. So don't ever think that you aren't significant because of your dating life. Don't ever think that you're not significant because you're divorced. Don't think you're not significant because your child veered off and has become an addict. Don't think that you did something wrong. You are doing the best you can with the tools that you have. You have a God that has everything that you need and everything that your children need. And not only that, he cares about your children more than you care about your children. So think about how much you think about your children. And I want you to multiply that times like infinity. You
Mm.
don't have to worry about your children. You don't have to worry about what's going to come of them. If you truly ask God to give you the daily bread that you need, don't think about next week, daily. He's going to give you and your children exactly what they need. Take away the anxiety, take away the worry, take away the fear. God is covering you and your children, and He cares about you all more than you could ever even fathom. So there's never nothing to worry about. He knows what you need. If that means a partner coming back into your life to help you with your children, that's what'll happen. Or it could just be a neighbor that comes around and helps you with your kids. Do not close off His way of providing the need.
Mhm.
Just let Him provide the need, and you just ask Him and just tell Him what you need, but no, He'll give you that and more, and it may not look the way you expected it to be. That's what I would say.
Oh, I'm just like, I'm so filled up by you just saying that. Thank you so
Oh,
much. Like I'm so warm. My heart's so warm right now. Oh, Chloe, I want to know if you would just tell listeners about your resources and how they can connect with you.
So it's always good to go to my site at chloemgooden.com, at CHLOEMGOODEN.com. There is where I have all my books and podcasts and YouTube videos and writing. I do too much. I'm like a chameleon. But the point, if you go there, that's always the best way to message me, contact me. I just came out actually with the book, The Breakup, How to Let Go of Your Ex, Heal, Forgive, and Move Forward. Very dear topic for me coming out of a divorce. And I just want to be able to encourage women and help them through that process. I'm still going through it. I'm not coming down to a pit picking you up. No, we're in the pit together, and I'm just trying to get us out too. And so that has just come out. It's on my site and on Amazon. So that's really the best way to connect with me, to see all of the social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. So I would say there, and Pinterest. I know you all are on Pinterest. I know you're there.
Yep.
Chloe Good Ministries on there as well. So yeah, that's always the best way. Just go to my site, and it has a ton of resources.
Great. And I will link to it in the show notes to make it easy for everybody to find it. Also, Chloe and I did an episode on her podcast together, two-parter. That was so much fun. And I'm going to link that as well. So,
I just love you, Michelle. I tell you.
oh, love you. Thank you so much.